Hey, this is Steve the Sound Guy. Today I'm going to show you how I built a Suitcase boombox. First off is the parts list for the build. There are 5 major components for this Suitcase boombox speaker. The first of which is, of course, the suitcase itself. This is a Starflite, about a 20-inch suitcase. It's not too big, not too small. Nice red color, bit of that retro vibe. That's what we're going to be building the speakers into. The speakers in question are these guys. They are a Boss Audio Systems Rebel Power Sports. Model number is MRGB65B. These are pretty cool because they're 6.5 inches and they have built-in RGB LEDs that can be controlled with a little remote control. Next up to drive those speakers is a tiny amplifier. This is a Lepai LP 2020 Ti. It's a small multi-purpose amp, low profile, not extremely powerful, but I just kept it simple. The source is going to be a Bluetooth audio input. So this is a Taotronics wireless Bluetooth receiver. Just a tiny little thing that's going to plug into the amp to receive Bluetooth signal from a phone. And then to power everything, I've got a wireless power rig set up here. First of all is a DeWalt 12-volt battery. This battery model is a DCB 127. To get power from the battery, this is a battery adapter that plugs onto the top of the battery. I got this off of eBay for about 15 bucks. It's 3D printed just by a guy who makes these adapters, so you can plug it in and make 12-volt wireless systems for whatever you want. Last but not least, this is a generic battery charger to charge up the wireless battery. All right, that's the parts list. Let's see how we put all this together. So here's the inside of the suitcase. You can see it's got this divider that normally divides the luggage. I'm going to keep that in for now, but I might remove that. First step is to get some plywood, and I've got to cut it down because I'm going to glue it to the inside of the case. So the case itself has some molding here that I'm probably going to avoid because I want a flat surface to glue the plywood onto. And this is, I got a couple pieces just of scrap plywood here that I'm going to cut down. Most of them are 1/2-inch plywood. This one is 1/4 inch. I'm going to see what kind fits better. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use the 1/2 inch because I'm going to be screwing things down into it. But the plan is to cut the piece of wood down to size, cut holes in it to mount the speakers in, and then glue it to the inside of the case. I'm probably going to cut the holes in the case before I glue it. I'm probably going to cut the holes before I actually mount anything. So I'll cut the plywood down, figure out where the speakers go, trace the holes, cut the holes in both the plywood and the case. The case also has some fabric lining on it, which I may or may not scrape off because I have to glue the wood onto it, and I want to make sure that the fabric doesn't compromise the strength of that glue. But yeah, let's see how we can measure and cut down some of this stuff. So I measured the inside of the suitcase and I figured out what dimensions I needed to cut the wood. So I cut the plywood, and using the handy dandy speaker cutout template that comes with most speakers like this, I used it to cut a hole in the plywood, and I also used it to plot out where I'm going to cut the hole in the actual suitcase body. So next step is to cut the hole in the suitcase body and then mount the plywood inside the suitcase so that I can drill holes into the plywood to screw the speakers onto the suitcase. So I got the holes cut. It was pretty easy to cut through the suitcase, being soft plastic. And now it's time to make sure everything lines up. So I'm going to open up the suitcase and make sure my speakers fit in the holes, which they do. Yeah. So those are the speakers coming through. And now this is my plywood backing, which is going to be used to mount the speakers so they actually have a hard surface to drill into, not just that soft plastic. So that's one side, and the other side. I split this in half, these 2 pieces of plywood, because the suitcase has a little bit of flex to it, and so the surface is a little bit curved, and just having 2 pieces allows it to give that little bit of flex instead of a rigid surface and making the front of it kind of look a little bit weird. But yeah, this is where the plywood is going to sit, and next step is to glue the plywood in place. So I'm going to do that now. So I've got holes cut in both the suitcase and the plywood. You can see I've got the plywood glued on the inside there. That's what the speakers are going to be screwed down into. And I drilled some pilot holes for the mounting screws of the speakers in the suitcase already. I still have to drill through those to the plywood underneath, but then I should be able to screw the speakers right in. I'm going to do that now. And there we go. The speakers are mounted. Got 4 screws in each of them. And on the inside, you can see that they are mounted up nicely. The holes that are coming through, that's not the screws sticking through, that's just a pilot hole that I drilled through all the way. Next up is to actually wire up the electronics inside the suitcase. So let's see how we're going to do that. So the first thing I did when I was wiring up everything was to install a secondary mounting place for the electronics. This is on the other side, opposite the speakers. The things that are going to be mounted here are, number one, you can see the battery adapter mounted right there. And then I'm also going to have the amplifier mounted right in here. I don't have the amplifier mounted just yet because I wanted to test everything out before I mounted everything. But the battery adapter is wired up with Anderson connectors. It's got a little inline fuse right there just in case. But that's the power. It comes out of the battery adapter and the power goes to the other side. The power over here is wired to an on-off switch. Simple single throw dual pole on-off switch. So it goes into the switch. Right now it's off, and when I switch it on, power goes to 2 places. Power goes to the LED lights for the speakers. That's these guys, the power. And then the second place that the power goes is back over here to this cable, which is going to plug into the amplifier. It's a 12-volt power cable that's going to draw off of the wireless battery power. So I'm going to plug in the battery right here. Just click it in, and that's mounted there. And then the amplifier is currently just plugged in, and I'm going to test out the amplifier with it just plugged in. I don't want to hook it up to the battery power just yet. We can confirm that the power is making it to the speakers when I throw the switch. And there's the LEDs. So the battery is definitely powering the speakers. Let's see if I can get some music going. Sounds like we got some music going. So I've got the amp connected to the little Bluetooth receiver. Currently the Bluetooth receiver is just getting audio from a computer, but that is definitely wireless. Both speakers are working, the lights are functioning. So the next thing for me to do is to screw down the amp inside the suitcase and verify that the wireless power works. Alright, we've got the amp mounted. Everything is cabled up and plugged in. As a little finishing touch, I put a little bit of Velcro on the back of the Bluetooth module, so that's just mounted right there and it's not going to come off. But yeah, we're running totally wireless. Sound is going, and let's close her up. There we go. There is your boombox suitcase, ready to go. Cool thing about these little speakers, they come with a little remote. You can mess around with the LEDs. Let's see if I put it on different modes. There's a solid flashing mode. There's like a gradual flashing mode. You can edit the color, individual color if you just want to make it red. But yeah, super fun. Totally wireless, totally functional, LED Bluetooth suitcase boombox with a handy dandy power switch. There we go. All right, hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you guys have a good time. Bye! Just really quick, making sure we're not breaking any copyright purposes, the song that you heard me playing as a test track was Nova by Nigel Good on the Space Cadet album. It is an excellent song, this is for review purposes, an excellent song to capture the feeling of being an actual space cadet. The bouncy rhythms hearken to a starry sky as you traverse the galaxy. So good on you, Nigel Good. Thanks for creating excellent music. This has been a review by Steve Negretti.